to Wild and Free Art. Today I'm going to show you how I turned a box I found in the recycling bin into this beauty. Follow along to see how I did it. So this is the box that I originally started with that I found in the recycle bin. As you can see, it's in somewhat good condition. It has proper hardware, just needs a bit of loving. So I decided to coat the entire box in some homemade clear gesso, just to give it a bit more strength, a bit more grip for the glue to stick to and any paint or other things that I wanted to add to it, as well as to give it like a waterproof kind of coating. So I did everything inside and outside with the clear gesso. Once that was dry, I decided that it was time to start covering the box. So I first chose the image that I wanted to use as my cover image. And I chose this beautiful page from an old Anne Stokes calendar. I loved the blue and the owl, the size is perfect, and I just so happened to have an old photography backdrop that was very close in color and in design. So I decided that was what I was going to use. My first step before covering everything was to take all of the measurements, making sure that I had both the measurements of the width, the height, and the depth of not just the entire thing, but also the lid and the sides individually. I then transferred those measurements onto the back of my backdrop and cut out the pieces that I needed to cover the different parts of my box. I cutting mat, put it on the floor underneath the pieces that I needed, and then I just cut it with my little rolling cutter. The next step was to attach the fabric, and what I decided to do before attaching it, because I realized that from being folded for so long it was quite creased, so I decided to give it a quick iron first. I ironed it between layers of a sheet just to make sure, because it was a plastic kind of vinyl backdrop and I didn't want to risk melting it. I start sticking. Now, in order to make sure that the edges and corners stuck together, I used some large double-sided tape, and then I used my glue and water homemade Mod Podge mixture in between the tape and to cover everything and help it stick properly. This was a very long and very tedious process, and it kind of changed. You could see the difference, but when it dries, you don't see the marks of the glue and the brush marks, thankfully. I had to be very careful, especially going around the latches and the hinges in the back. I kind of just drew around them and then cut it out with some scissors so that I could kind of cut out the spots and then just pull the entire fabric over top of it. It wasn't perfect, but I kind of fixed it with paint later. And to be honest, this is for me, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just wanted to see if I could do it, really, and find somewhere to organize my stuff. So after I covered everything in the fabric, which took quite a long time, especially making sure with the corners and cutting out the bits and sticking on a combination of double-sided tape and glue. I confess it took a couple days. Between layers, I would clamp it, and then I would add the next layer, you know, a couple hours later or the next day, depending on how time permitted. So once the box was fully wrapped, let's say, both inside and out, it was time to start the best part, which is the decorating, of course. So to decorate, I chose my page from the calendar, which I showed you before, and I just ripped the edges a bit to kind of give it a more natural, blended look so that it would fit better on my cover piece. So once I'd torn all the edges, I used some blue ink just to ink the white bits. It wasn't really necessary because then I was painting over everything, but I did it because at the time I was just kind of following my instinct. Once that was all done, it was time to attach the calendar page to the lid. And for that, I used some more of my homemade clear gesso, like glue, and I stuck the page down with the gesso, and then I put a coat of that clear gesso on top. This helped reduce the shine and prepared that shiny surface for taking paint. I then gathered my acrylic paints and some paint brushes in blue and whites and blacks, and I just basically spent a couple hours dabbing the whole thing, trying my best to blend the calendar page in with the cloth fabric, and then kind of let it kind of blend out. So while that was drying, I decided it was time to make the little boxes and compartments to go on the inside. So I raided my recycle bin and I found a bunch of boxes that were all different sizes. I played around with them with like a giant game of Tetris inside and made sure that I could fit everything in. I cut up cereal boxes, I cut up tea boxes for tea, I just basically, yeah, anything you can find. Play Tetris until you get it to fit the way you want to. It's a good idea to use a reference for what you want to put inside your big box in the end. I'm going to be using it to organize my lace, so I used that. And I basically just made all the boxes I needed to fit inside. After that, to give them strength and some sort of cohesion to look nice or whatever, I covered them all in book pages, inside and out. This also gave them a bit more strength and yeah, it made them all look more or less the same, kind of like they were supposed to be that way. I just used my PVA and water mixture to glue on the pages. Once all the inside was sorted, it was time to add the final touch, which was these little book corner type things. I thought they would look nice and give it a bit of, you know, kind of a more finished feel. So I just used my jewelry glue and I stuck down those corners and let them dry for 24 hours just to make sure they were proper stuck on. And I finally could start organizing my huge stash of lace that was overflowing out of my basket. And I put it in the box. And here she is, all done and organized. Are there imperfections? Absolutely. Am I proud of myself? Also, absolutely. I think the transformation from the beginning to now is incredible, and I've made something beautiful and useful too. Let me know what you think about my transformation in the comments below, and if you'd like to get more content, remember to like and subscribe to this channel. Happy crafting, everyone. Bye-bye.